I have 4 p.m. We do have quite a bit to cover in an hour, so we'll go ahead and get started. I know we had over 100 sign up, so maybe some more folks will be joining us shortly. Welcome to the NCEES end of year teacher and staff evaluation processes for 22-23. You should have gotten a message when you joined the meeting with the slides link, but I've also put it in the chat so that you can have a copy of the slides, or if you're just watching on your device, you can screenshot that or take a picture with the camera or hold the camera up and get the link to the slides. I am Cammie Nairn. I work for NCDPI. I'm the NCEES Education Product Consultant, which means I am the product manager. So I answer all questions that affect your system steps, those green checks and everything. And joining me today is my colleague, Jennifer Bass, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Good afternoon. As Cammie said, I'm Jennifer Bass, and I also work for DPI, and I am the NCEES coordinator. So Cammie and I work very closely together. She does the system itself types of questions, and I do the policy. So if you ever have any questions about policy for NCEES, like what teachers go on what cycle and PDPs and that kind of thing, that's what I do. So like I said, if one of us doesn't know the answer, the other one will. So thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Yes. Jennifer's awesome. When she helps me answer questions, I help her answer questions. And we respond promptly to your questions, so don't hesitate to reach out to us. After this webinar, we will have a follow-up email that will go out with any questions that were asked, like a frequently asked questions document. If you do want a certificate of completion for today to get a CEU for 0.1 CEUs, please do complete the NCEES feedback survey. The last couple of questions will be, do you want a certificate? And you'll need to enter your email to receive that by email. And then you would print out the body of your email as your certificate to turn in locally to your PSU, your public school unit, your district, for approval towards licensure for that. That happens at your district. We'll also, we are currently recording, and since we are recording, we will post that recording to YouTube. We have a NCEES playlist out there so that you can continue to access the webinar. We are using WebEx for our meeting today. So you came in muted, but if you need to ask a question, you can unmute to ask that, or use your chat to ask questions. It's the little circly thing. I don't know if I have a picture of that on here. It might be under your 3 dots if it's not already on your bar when you signed in. Look under the 3 dots for chat. There is also a Q&A under there. You can ask private questions. I do have it open, but if your question is affecting probably everybody across the state, please put that in the chat, because that's what I use when I follow up with the frequently asked questions. You may have your camera on or off. That's up to you. I may turn mine off if my bandwidth starts giving me trouble. I am in the office today, so hopefully we have enough bandwidth. All right, so our agenda for today is we're going to look back at getting back into NCEES, reviewing the teacher evaluation process, complete Observation 3 container, review of that, and then a review of completing the summative evaluation. And then we'll jump over to the PDP plan and show you all the processes for wrapping up that PDP plan for the school year. If there are any administrators joining us today that are district administrators or site administrators in NCEES, we'll talk a little bit about completing those reports. We did talk more about it in last week's webinar, so please watch that as well. All right, so to get back into NCEES, most of you have this down pat, but in case we have anybody new, you're going to log into NCEED Cloud. That's my.ncedcloud.org. If you have any issues with that, your district should have an IAM lead to help you get back in, or to make sure you've claimed your account if you're brand new, or to reset your password. There are steps to reset your password out here, so you can try that, but if you have issues, contact your district first, and if they need help, they will put in a ticket with DPI. or they can contact John Mars at dpi.nc.gov, and that's for the leads in your district. Once you do get logged in with your username and password, you will see your dashboard, and you should see pretty close to the top the NCEES icon. It looks like a blue letter P for PowerSchool because they own our system. They are the vendor for our system. It says Unified Talent underneath, and then beside it, it will say NCEES, what we call it, North Carolina Educator Effectiveness System. You will land on your teacher landing page, or for the user levels or staff landing page. You'll see these links. Make sure you do keep a check on these icons at the top. If your district's using the calendar in here, there'll be dates out there for you to look at. If I've sent out some targeted emails to the admins last week, whenever somebody sends out a message through here, you'll get a red circle. If you see a red circle on that envelope, somebody sent you a message. Click on that and view your message. And then always check under your initials. You can, if you didn't know, you can go under the manage profile and then the snapshot. And if you've been in a district for a while, you can see the ratings that you've gotten over the last few years. You can also see a summary of any PD CEUs you've earned in NCEES. And just a quick reminder, if you're having trouble with the steps in a plan, do go out here and look at the help guides first. There's help guides for the teacher support, staff people, and then there's a help guide for the evaluator or observer in the plan, in each plan. So there's one for comprehensive, standard, abbreviated, late hire plan, and so on. So do check those. And then here's a link to those help guides as well. If you're not in NCEES, you can click this link, go to our DPI website, and find the help guide there as well. All right, any questions before we get started? I will put this link back in the chat for the slides for those of you that just joined. Okay, we're going to go, I don't see any or hear any, so we're going to go to the teacher evaluation process, and I will turn this over to Jennifer.
Thank you. In front of you on the screen, what you see is a one-pager that was developed about the teacher evaluation process. This one-pager can be found on page 21 of your teacher manual. You can also find it on our NCEES Canvas site if you wanted to see that. Our focus today is mostly on step 4, which is the summary, evaluation, and goal setting. But we would like to take a minute to review the information that's actually in step 3 to make sure that we're wrapping up our observation cycles for this year. So if you look at step 3, the observation cycle, it includes component 5 and 6, the observations and the post-observation conference. So at this time of the year, you should all be in the final rounds of the observations so that we can ensure that you have enough time for any coaching that might be happening or improvement or practice could be happening during the final parts of the year. But as a reminder, as you can see on the screen, if you were a teacher with less than 3 years of employment, you would be on the comprehensive evaluation cycle. And that means you would have 3 formal observations by a principal or their designee, which is usually the assistant principal, and 1 formal observation by a peer. And keep in mind that all formal observations must last at least 45 minutes or an entire class period. So if you are a new teacher, you would have 4 observations in the year. So teachers that have more than 3 years of employment are usually on a standard or an abbreviated evaluation cycle. The standard cycle itself means that the principal will do at least 3 observations, and 1 would be the formal observation, which means it would last at least 45 minutes, and the other 2 may be shorter. If you are a teacher who has got more than 3 years of employment and you are not in renewal year for your license, you're probably going to be placed on the abbreviated cycle. And this one, the principal will do 2 observations, and they're only going to focus on standards 1 and 4. And that abbreviated observation could be formal, meaning 45 minutes, or 20 minutes, either one that they choose. So for component 6, the post-observation conference itself, They should always be held within 10 school days after the formal observation happens, because we found that post observations that happen past 10 days, usually that information kind of becomes irrelevant, and it makes that process less meaningful and less effective for you as a teacher to help you in your growth of your practice. So post observations are not required for those informal observations, those 20-minute ones, but we do recommend them so that the principals and teachers do have an opportunity to discuss what was seen, what was observed, and to discuss best practices. So we just wanted to very quickly go over step 3, the observation cycle, as you guys are winding down. And on the screen in front of you, this is just a chart that was created so that you can actually see what steps are involved in each one of the cycles, the comprehensive, the standard, and abbreviated. This can also be found on our website and as well in the teacher's observation guide, evaluation guide. But this is a helpful thing to share with your teachers, or your principals may share it with you as teachers. So as a brief review, we always have to go over this a lot. We get a lot of questions. Observations are a series of formative assessments. It's a year-long process that we go through where we do these formative assessments and collect data for each of the observations on rubrics. Then at the end of the year, the principals will take all of the data and they consider all of that together, including how many times throughout the year that each item on the rubric was actually observed in the classrooms. This informs their end of year summative evaluation. So we always tell teachers, you are observed 2 to 4 times per year, but you're only evaluated 1 time, and that's at the end of the year. And that's what this is kind of showing you.
Okay,
So
any
back over to
questions?
Candy.
Thank you. Any questions for Jennifer on that process? All right. We're going to probably do a look at a lot of slides, but if you want me to jump over to live, just put that in the chat if you need to see the actual click steps to these. We're trying to stay within our hour, but we're happy to jump over to the live side if we need to help you out. I did want to introduce Ms. Audrey Long. She was able to join our webinar today. She joins a lot of our NCEES webinars, so I'll let her introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. As Cami said, I'm usually assisting her facilitating. So if you have any questions, just feel free to put it in the chat. I'm like Cami's second eye, and I'll let her know. Okay, have a great one.
All right, thanks, Audrey. All right, so we're looking at reopening your evaluation plan, and what you would have done is gone through NCEA Cloud, open up NCEES, and you're going to go to the My Evaluation tab, and then you should have your current evaluation tab. It defaults to active. That's what this blue line is. Just a quick reminder, your past year plans that have been archived, as long as you remain in your current district, will show up under this archive tab. However, if you change districts, we deactivate your plans, so the new district must ask you to see those. They don't automatically get to see your plans from the previous district, and this is per legislation. So you will find those under deactivated evaluations if you switch district and you have past plans. So we're going to go to the current plan. You're going to click on the title to reopen that plan. So it's about time to start with observation 3 if your district hasn't already started. I know each district probably has a different calendar by a couple weeks, so follow your district's calendar. But observation 3 will be starting, and you notice that training and orientation will have a green check. Observation 1 and observation 2 will all have a green check. Fully completed, signatures are done. Once everything's locked, it will open up observation 3. So you're going to click on observation 3 and access the 7 activities within observation 3. So this is just looking at one of the plan types. Depending on what plan type you're on, it may be just slightly different. But the observation container overall will have these little activity icon statuses. You won't see it in progress until you get to the formal observation 3. It's just the way the system is set up. So if you've done a pre-observation, this flower will show in progress and then get the green check when everything's complete. However, some plans don't require that pre-observation by the time we get to observation 3. So a lot of you will be starting with the formal observation. Notice these circles with the I in it. If you ever can't get to activity in a plan, if it has this letter I in a circle, you can hover over that and see why it's not open yet. It's probably waiting for this previous activity to be completed. Yeah, right here. I've got a screenshot right there. You also have these little email icons, and this is where you can open up and see everybody that has access to your plan, and you can send them an email from this page. If you're thinking of something while you're in your activities, you do have an email icon here, and you can fill out that email. You can change anything in that subject area. It's got little scripts that put in people's last names and first names, such as that. You can remove it if you want to and just type in your own stuff. So we're going to take a look at the observation cycle. The pre-observation conference starts with the principal if you're going to do that, and then it goes to the teacher, and then the formal observation goes back to the principal. The post-observation conference and the principals or evaluators or observers' signature would go in this step, and then the teacher acknowledges and puts their signature on the post-observation. You can at any time enter a written response. It is not tied to any locking activity. So the written response is there for teachers to, like if you held your conference and you thought of something that you could give the observer or evaluator an artifact or some other, I'll call them artifacts, for the principal that they can then go back in the tally rubric and check some additional descriptors. You can use that written response to do that or just to ask a question. Then when they receive that response, they do have to acknowledge your written response. And then once everybody's complete, everything's been edited and done, the principal will log the observation activity. Here's a look at the written responses container right here. I notice it doesn't have the asterisk, so it's not a required container. So you just click in there, you edit it to put your response in. You can include attachments, you can include comments. The evaluator will then get the email that says you submitted that. They do have to acknowledge that in the system, and it will show in this activity. They go in there and say, yes, I have received the written response from the teacher. This is just a quick look at what the evaluator sees. Here's what the teacher puts stuff in. Here's the email that the evaluator gets, and then here's where the evaluator edits that response and acknowledges with a yes. Any questions about those steps so far? Okay, we're going to move on to the record of teacher activities, and this is a container in the NCEES plan. There's one in both the PDP and the evaluations, so we're going to look at the one in the evaluations. Here's what the field looks like, record of evaluations activities. It has two sub-activities in it. One is the record of teacher evaluation activities. The other is the observation scoring summary. The one below gives you a tally of how everybody has, which descriptors they've checked as they've observed you throughout the year. And it will give you totals on each descriptor. We want to look at this record of teacher evaluation activities. Once you click on that, you can, or the evaluator clicks on that, they can edit it. They are supposed to, according to the descriptor in here, enter the teacher background. But what it's more often used for is if you've been out on leave for any reason, they can note that in here. Or anything else that may impact your evaluation, those notes go in this teacher background area. And then at the top of the page, the evaluator, you as a staff, will see this print template. Anybody that can get to your plan can print out the record of activities. And so you just click this drop down and pick the report to run. It gives you a list of signatures and when steps were completed. Here's a sample of that. What school you're at. Do notice if this is printing 2 schools for you or 2 districts for you, you need to contact your districts and get that fixed. So either your current district needs to inactivate you, or your past district most likely needs to inactivate you and staff UID, what they might call CEDARs, and that would be your HR payroll from your previous district. Because you really don't want both districts on your plan. The plan belongs to one or the other districts. Here's the event dates that happen in your plan and who accepted them, which means they signed off, and what date and time that they signed off. It also gives you your start and end times for each of your observations in that report.
And when you have a question, they want to know, do these need to be printed at the end of every year?
I'm going to defer to our attendees. What do you do? We recommend you print anything you're going to need for planning for the next school year, for record keeping from the current school year. You need to print those before June 30th. So as soon as everybody's done with their plans, if you want to keep a record of these, then yes, either have them print them out and save them somewhere, or you as a DA, you as a teacher or a staff, support staff may want to keep a record of this. Does anybody else want to chime into that that's listening in today? All right, y'all are mighty quiet today. Okay, so if nobody has any questions about the observation portion of the evaluation plan, we are going to head into that summary evaluation. Yes.
Excuse me. Do you mind going into the live portion to show me how you access that?
Oh, the record of, yes, I can do that.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for asking. So we're going to go to, I'm going to go to staff evaluations, and when you just need to open your own plan, or if you're looking at somebody else's plan, it's going to be the same steps. All right, so I'm just going to let me open I'll try this comprehensive plan. All right, so it's down here in the record of activities container. Let me zoom in so you can see that. Record of activity, evaluation activities. It's the very first one. You're going to click that. This is where you edit the teacher background right here. Don't know why you want to delete it, but here's the edit. Here is the print template. There's only one for each plan type. It's a little different in the PDP. We'll see that. Don't know where it went. Try it again. Maybe it's thinking. Oh, there it went. All right, so then it just prints up here. You have a PDF icon here to print out a PDF. And then here's where you see all the steps and who signed when. And then the start and end times for the observation.
Thank you. This is what we print out for BT teachers.
Yes. Okay. And so if you have access, or if you know a DA in your district administrator of NCEES that has the access to export a plan to PDF, we have a way for them to bulk print that out for you. There is a help guide for export to PDF, because this one you either have to do one by one, or you can do it in bulk. Under this Administrator Reports Help Guide is export a plan to PDF using the Record of Activities template. And you can either print out for certain people or print out for a whole school, however you want those printed out. They get downloaded in a folder, individual PDF of their Record of Activities for each staff that you've requested that for.
Thank you so much. That is actually helpful because I think last year I had to do it one by one.
Yeah, yeah. All right. You're welcome.
Next question also, Cammie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. I do have an answer in here that says, yes, best practice is to always print your documentation. Thank you, Ms. Baker. And then how long should the observation be left open for a teacher to add comments and upload artifacts? Jennifer, do you want to respond to that?
That's kind of up to the principal or whoever the observer is and the teacher. I mean, I would definitely say within, you know, a week or whatever, but you can't sign off until they have that up there. If they choose, I mean, if they're going to add something, they need to let you know that they plan to add something.
Mm-hmm.
But I would definitely set maybe a week on that.
Yeah. So
Especially if you're observing a lot of teachers, sometimes it gets away from you and you forget to go back and close it up.
right. So that rubric can be left open. That observation can be left open while you're holding the observation conference with the principal or evaluator or observer, whoever did the observation. So some districts do that. Some districts don't like to do that. They go ahead and close it. But then if you submit additional things, you have a district administrator in NCEES that can reopen the activity to add any additional comments or upload any additional artifacts.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for the question. All right, let's jump over to summary evaluation with Jennifer.
All right. So now we'll go into step 4, which is the summary evaluation. And that is component 7 in our process itself. Prior to the end of the school year, in accordance with your LEA's timeline that they've set for summative evaluation conferences to happen, the principal needs to conduct that summary evaluation conference with the teacher. And we want them to discuss the components of the evaluation cycle type that was used, either the comprehensive, the standard, or the abbreviated. So at the end of this conference, these are the things that should happen, and they are listed on the chart here. You must give a rating for each element in the rubric. The principal will make a written comment on any element that was marked not demonstrated. So the principal has to say why they noted that as not demonstrated. They must give an overall rating for each standard in the rubric, and they will provide the teacher with the opportunity to add comments to that teacher summary of the end of year ratings form, which is what we're just talking about. So if the teacher, best practice, I would say, if you have something you want to add, let the principal know that you plan to do that so that they won't close it. That'll save you the step of having to get a DA to open it back up. They must review the completed summary in the end of year rating form with the teacher, and then they need to secure that teacher's signature on the record of the teacher evaluation activities and the summary end of year rating form. And as we have told teachers over and over across the state, just because the signature does not mean that you might agree or disagree. The signatures only mean for the teacher that you saw and had the conference and you saw your summative evaluation, and the principal signature states that all the process was followed and it was completed and the conference actually happened. And those are what the signatures mean. So we wanted to share with you what this kind of looks like, how the principal goes through this and gets those ratings at the end of the year. The principal is going to identify first the descriptor that has not been marked throughout the year. The first descriptor that has not been marked throughout the year. So if you look at this, the first one under the proficient column, under developing, you have numbers. It was seen 3 times and 2 times under developing. And then under proficient, it was seen 2 and 3, but there is one that is blank, and that's circled in red. So that means they did not see that in their observations. So you're going to look for that lowest column category for which all the descriptors were observed at least once during the evaluation cycle. So as you see, that's going to revert us back to developing, and this particular element would be developing. Are there any questions about how that works? Guess not. Okay. So now look at this one down. This is the summary rating sheet that the principal actually uses. This is element 1A, the teacher leads in the classroom. So down under the bottom on the rating sheet, leads in the classroom, we just said it's developing. So they're going to check that on A, 1A. All right, now it's your turn. Oops, excuse me. All right, we're going to keep doing that. We'll keep doing that throughout the processes, and we'll keep looking. The principal will look, and when they see, as you can see over here, they saw it 3 times, 2 times, 3 times, 2 times, up where the red circle is. This is where they did not observe during the observation cycle. So this is where we're going to revert back to the column that everything was seen, and we're circled in green. So this time, this leads in the school will fall under proficient. And they're going to complete this the whole way through the process for all of the standards and all of the elements.
This one
So
for them
now,
to do.
yeah, this is the one that they're going to do. So I want you to take a look at element 1, C, D, and E, and determine where you think the element ratings would be. So we're going to take a pause for a second. I just want you to kind of look through and tell me what we're going to talk. Where do you think those element ratings would be?
And you're welcome to unmute if you want to comment. So like for the first one, which rating would it be for the summary evaluation? Or you can put it in the chat. Oh, somebody said proficient.
Proficient.
Yep, I'm getting some proficient answers.
Yep. And you are correct.
Yep.
Because as you go through, these were observed 2, 3, and 3 times there, and then proficient, they were observed on all of them, all of the descriptors, but when you get over to the others, the accomplished side, they were not observed. So all of these would be rated proficient. So in return, if I could talk today, after the ratings for each element are established, an overall rating for the standard is determined at that point. So when determining the summary evaluation, teachers can attach comments or artifacts to be considered by the evaluator before that final standard rating is given. So for each standard 1 through 5, the evaluator makes a reasonable assessment based upon the evidence that they have observed or they have been has been shared with them, and any information that they have collected throughout the year. The comments should be written in all sections to support and reflect the rating that was given. The teacher signature, as I said before, indicates that the observation was reviewed, and the evaluator signature indicates that the observation was reviewed and all the processes were followed.
Okay, I have a question. So what happens if, for example, all the descriptors in proficient was marked as seen, but not all of the developing descriptors were checked?
Well, if they weren't all checked, you wouldn't move to proficient. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like they wouldn't have been scored. If they had been developing, they wouldn't have moved over to proficient to begin with. Does that make sense?
Well, during single
Are you asking-
observations, that might happen if
Right.
they only saw, but in the summary, they are seeing all the observations totaled up, right?
Right. So you're seeing all the observations totaled up. So it is, as we've said, it is up to the principal's discretion. If you've seen things in the observations where you've actually marked on the rubric, if you've collected other data or other evidences throughout the year, sometimes you will find that we always tell principals, do not like say, well, you've got 3 and 2, so I'm gonna round up or whatever. It's the principal's discretion to decide where they feel that teacher falls most of the time. But usually, you know, if the teacher's pretty much proficient all the way across, they're going to be proficient. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was going to look at how it looks like. So they're looking at, they can look at this observation scoring summary, and you can see it as well. Well, it's my training site, sorry.
Might not show up.
I should have one that'll show up. Let's try this again. Staff evaluations. It is being a little slow. Let's see. Oh, I have a lot. We just do that one? I think let's try this one. But hopefully that answers your question. But hopefully while you're being observed, somebody did at some point mark items in this first column, in the knowledge column during your observations. But this is where you can see those totals. Yeah, and this is test site, so I was just clicking boxes to test, but this one would stay under developing, right, Jennifer, even though not all of the descriptors were checked?
Yes. I'm looking at it's very tiny on the screen.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Like
in
element 1A, because nothing was checked in developing, I'm sitting here pointing for you, but if that uses data was not seen, then it would revert back to developing anyway on the chart.
okay. All right, so hopefully that helped out a little bit.
I was looking at the questions. How does this process affect the teacher beginning at the end of the year? If you were hired, you would probably be a late hire if you were hired at if you were starting to teach at the beginning of the year. If you were hired after 120 days, you would be on the late hire schedule, which means they may not be able to do all of your 3 observations for the year or the 4 observations. But if they put you on that late hire evaluation cycle, they would evaluate you as many times as they could get in. And then do the summary based on what data they had.
Yep. All right, and then the question about, is that not a discrepancy because the teacher shows proficiency? That might be one we need to take back and follow up in either individually with you or in the frequently asked questions document that will go out. So we'll take a look at that. That was a good question.
It is a good question.
Can I chime in?
Yes.
As far as that discrepancy is concerned, having been in different districts, one thing that I have noticed is that I have heard administrators say, well, we don't check the development, like we can move to proficient, which means that that teacher is also, you know, the development could be checked, but we just going to start here.
Skip over.
But
Right.
I've been to, just skipping over, but I was trained on checking everything just so you can kind of circumvent that discrepancy there.
Yeah, and you're
might
right.
be an issue.
You're right, Ms. Baker. A lot of times people say it depends on when and how and who you were trained by, because some people do just skip right to the proficient. You know, if they're showing proficient indicators, then they assume automatically that they have mastered the developing too.
Right.
So yeah, it does depend on kind of where you are and when you were trained and who trained you.
Yeah, but they should. Yeah,
that's not where I am now.
they should be checking what they observed and what they know,
I agree.
and what you provided information for their knowledge. They should be checking those.
Thank you for jumping in though, because that's a good point.
All right. Next screen. We're good.
There we go. All right. So for your information, we do have all of the directions for completing that end of year final summary evaluation in the teacher evaluation manual, and it's on page 36. We also have the link right there so that you can check that out if you want. So that is there. If you have any questions, or if you have any further questions after looking there, please contact me or Cammie, and we'll try and answer those for you.
All right, so we're going to go back into NCEES and open up that summary evaluation. And it is here in the last step, next to the last step here, summary evaluation. At the bottom, you'll click that to open it up. To get to that, to get to here, each plan type has certain required activities that must be done to open up that activity container. And so here's a graphic on what needs to be completed and locked to open up the summative channel. So comprehensive, of course, it needs observation 1, 2, and 3, and a peer. This is for beginning teachers on comprehensive, or if you're a new hire teacher in a district, several districts do put you on a comprehensive plan. So they do need to complete that peer activity as well, so that summative will open.
Yes. Many times if you're new to a district, even if you've been working more than 3 years, they'll put you, especially that first year, on that comprehensive plan.
Yep. Yep. I know some that do first year or 3 years on that comprehensive. So whatever your district has set in their policy. Standard has 3 observations to complete, abbreviated 2. And then here's that late hire plan you guys were asking about a while ago. It just needs the 1 to open up the summative. Does legislation or the rules and the handbook require 2 for the plan to count, or is 1 okay for those late hires?
I think it's just 1, depending on like when they were hired. Like, we encourage principals, if you're put on late hire, to do as many as you can that, you know, makes sense. You're not wanting to go in every week or anything. But yes, it only needs 1. And somebody just asked, if you have a late hire, is the peer observation still required? If you are a brand new teacher with under 3 years, I would suggest that you try and fit in at least 1 peer observation and 1 principal observation, just because it gives you as a new teacher 2 views of your teaching, because the whole purpose of this is to actually go in and give you feedback and to help with any coaching that you might need to improve your practice. So it's not required, but we strongly suggest that you do. If you're under 3 years, try and get a peer and a principal.
Okay. All right. Thank you. The bottom screenshots are pretty much for the evaluators or the district administrators, whoever's following up on the end of year stuff, what needs to be locked in the plan for it to show fully complete. And so those are just listed there, and I won't read over all of those.
Right. We have another question up here. Do you, as the teacher, set up the peer observation? No, that is the administrator who will set that up. And you should be assigned, if you have, if that's a requirement for you, if you're under 3 years, they will assign that peer for you. You may have to talk, you might want to even talk to your mentor to remind the principal staff, you know, like, I'm new and she probably needs a peer observation set up. They can help you with that.
All right, so just another quick look. And when you're back in this, I want to show you the container again and trying to get into the summary evaluation form. It will probably have this I with a circle on it unless these steps are complete. So what does a summary evaluation? Who starts that? And that's going to be your evaluator. And then they hold the evaluation conference with you, and they'll do their signature in this step. And then the summary conference, the teacher and staff acknowledge there. Again, you have written responses that you can do at any point in this process. The evaluator will acknowledge it and then lock that whole summary evaluation to finish up the plan. Here's what it looks like to acknowledge the steps. So here's the teacher acknowledgement. There's the note that Jennifer talked about earlier about why you're signing off. Even if you don't agree with the conference you had, you're signing off because the process was followed. Use your written responses for any follow-up you need to if you're not in agreement with this as well, and then any other avenues you need to follow. All right, we're going to get into the professional development plan. We have about 15 minutes left. So we're going to turn it back over to Jennifer.
Okay. Now we are in the second part of step 4, which is goal setting, and we're going to talk a little bit about PD plans. So to the right, you can see the completed summary rating sheet that the principals fill out for the teachers. Now we have to determine which of the PD plans that the teacher will complete for next school year based on how they performed this school year. So there are 3 types of plans: the individual growth plan, the monitored growth plan, and the directed growth plan. And we'll look at that a little bit closer in the next one. So since this teacher right here is their overall ratings for each standard, they have a developing rating for standard 4, they would be on a monitored growth plan for next year. Even though everything else looks good, in standard 4, they do have developing, so we're going to put them on that monitor plan. And on the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit more about what those plans look like and what they require. Now, the individual PDP plan is for new teachers and teachers who are rated at least proficient on all the standards on that teacher rating summary form. This means that the teacher is going to develop their individual goals for their own growth, and they're going to meet with the administrator every time they're observed, and they're going to discuss their progress on their PDP. Now, the example that you just saw on the screen before, we said that teacher was going to be on a monitored PDP. Monitored PDPs are for teachers who have rated developing, which that teacher did, on 1 or more standards on that teacher summary rating form. If you're a teacher that's placed on a monitored PDP plan, that means the administrator and the teacher would be together to develop those goals. So this teacher's goal would definitely have something to do with standard 4 if you were looking at the teacher that we just looked at on the screen prior. Still, you're going to meet at least 3 times during the year to discuss your progress, and your principal may want to meet with you a little bit more. Now, the directed PDP plan is for teachers who have rated not demonstrated or on any standard, or they have been developing on 1 or more standards for 2 sequential years. That teacher probably is struggling in one area or another. So on this plan, the administrator themselves are going to develop those goals for that teacher based on all their observations and the documentations that they have collected. This one, we ask that the teacher and the principal meet at least 3 times, but we really recommend that you meet together at least monthly just to check and make sure your progress on meeting those goals for the year. So those are the 3 plan types, and that is based on how you actually performed this year on your summary rating. Are there any questions about those plan types?
Not seeing any.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Jennifer. So we're going to go back into NCEES and reopen our PDPs. Again, you're going to click on the title under the current evaluations tab to open that up. And in here, we want to see that your self-assessment has a green check. Notice the self-assessment is required, but it is never locked. So you can go in and update that. If your district requires that, or if you just want to do that on your own, that's up to you. I do recommend, if you do go in here to update it, if you want a record of how you set it at the first part of the year, print that to a PDF or just print it out to paper, because once you update it, you then do not have access to your first settings that you put in there. PDP initial review will have a green check, mid-year review a green check, and we're going to do the PDP end of year. When you open that up, you can see these activities. They're very similar throughout the year. You're going to have your end of year review. The teacher completes that information. You're going to have the evaluator then sign off and review the end of year review and sign off. Evaluator makes any needed changes in there, and then they sign. Then if you are a beginning teacher, and those will be on comprehensive plans, you also are probably assigned a mentor. This step is not required in the online tool. It is required that the mentor reviews this and signs off. So make sure that you mentors that are assigned that you get the signature in before the evaluator locks the whole container. If it gets locked, the DA can reopen it. Just remember that. What they probably need to do is unlock it because your step is not required. There's not really a reopen for your step, but it can be locked. So they need to unlock everything and let you in there to sign. And then the teacher signature is the last activity in there before the evaluator locks everything. So here's just a chart of how all that happens and a few little screenshots. It does start with the teacher to enter your PDP details for the end of year review. Goes to the evaluator to review it, and they do have to select if your goals were successfully completed here, yes or no, before they can sign off. And then it goes to the mentor if you're a beginning teacher and you have this mentor assigned. The mentor then needs to sign off. Then it goes back to the teacher to put their signature in. And then it goes finally back to the evaluator to lock up that PDP end of year review. All right, and again, this does also have PDP record of activities. And the template review is up here. Then there's an initial review printout, a mid-year review printout, end of year, and then the signatures in that final print template there. Let's see, I was gonna show you where that looks, just to show. There we go. Oh. All right, let's try this one. So here's that record of activities container, and we're going to open it up. Notice again, you have the teacher background here. Remember during COVID, those alternative evaluations were attached in here. But this is also another place that you can put notes on whatever affects this PDP plan as well in the teacher background. And here is where you access all the templates. All right, and I have screenshots to show what we just looked at. And we're going to talk about end of year, and it's coming up very soon. So the evaluation process for 22-23 was scheduled to close for our PSU Thursday, June 29th. Well, it does, the year goes to June 30th, but we like for your districts to be fully done with the plans June 29th, because the Friday is when I will be at DPI checking everything, making sure everything's done and in, and I will run my reports that inform EVOS. So I'll get those to Tom Tomberlin up here at DPI at the close of business on Friday, June 30th. So try to have your information in your districts all completed by June 29th. Just for any administrators that are on here today, there are some reports that you can run to know if you're done. So these reports are showing those summary ratings. So once you know everybody's done, you can run these summary ratings reports to keep on hand at your district. There's also some evaluation completion reports in here. There's an activity lock report in here. Once all the required activities are locked, that report does help you to know which plans are complete. All right, any questions before we wrap this up? Thank you guys for joining today. Let me get this link. This is our feedback survey. We read over everything and review, so let us know what we did well, what we didn't do well, maybe what you wanted to see and didn't see today, or unmute and let us know right now, and then we'll follow up on that. I'm putting this in the chat, so this is the feedback form. You can also, I'll leave this up here just a minute, if you have a device that you want to use that QR code for, it will open up that same form. And remember, the last two questions will be, do you want a certificate? And then we need your email address. Just want to give just a second in case anybody wanted to use the QR code. If you've opened up the slides, you have it there as well, and you have the link in your slides.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
That last slide you showed about the reports that can run, is there one for that, like at a school level? I know you're showing the district administrators.
There is one. It's not a good printable report. That your district administrator can create ad hoc reports that's just for certain schools. But let me show you what's out here under quick reports for your site and district administrators. That's under reporting. This very first report, go check it out. It's called GP status, but what it does is show the status of all the activities and all the plans. And if you're a principal, it's just going to pull for your school. I can't show it on the screen. Let me see. I would have to go like be a test principal or something. So we don't have time on that. But if you want to hang on after we end this, I don't mind walking you through this. But this will let you drill down into the school to individual people. You can see the status of where they're at with their plan. The other one is our quick reports. And here's the activity reports. The summary reports go by roles. So the plan types by role in the evaluation. So there's not one that you can run everybody all at one time. I mean, it doesn't have filters on it for you just to run it by school. But
okay, I see it. Thanks. That was
okay. You're welcome. All right. Any other questions? There's our emails if you want. Thank you, Audrey, for helping me keep track of questions, and Jennifer, thank you for your participation here. I think that went very well. Just let us know in the feedback, guys, and you guys have a great evening. I'm going to stop the recorder, and we'll end the session shortly.